They didn't just ask, they told me I had to sell my family's ranch. Their offers weren't just low, they were laughably insulting, numbers so absurd I couldn't help but chuckle. The audacity was almost impressive. They came at me like I was some naive farmer clinging to a patch of dirt, not someone whose bloodline had been rooted in this land for over a century. What they couldn't fathom, from their world of uniform mailboxes and obsessively manicured lawns, was that their pristine neighborhood, Cedar Pines Estates, was, in a very real sense, already mine. Let that sink in, because sometimes the people who think they hold all the power are standing on ground far shakier than they realize. Looking back, I'm still stunned I pulled it off, going from nearly being forced out to essentially owning the HOA that tried to bully me. It all started, like many bad stories do, with a polite letter, the kind that's all flowery words hiding a steel trap. I'm Lucas Bennett, and I've lived on Oak Ridge Ranch my whole life, except for a few years at college and a stint as a forensic accountant in the city. That job skill, it became their worst nightmare. This ranch isn't just land. It's a living memory. Granddad teaching me to ride. Summer nights with crickets so loud you'd swear the stars were humming along. 300 acres of rolling hills, ancient oaks, and a creek whispering its own secrets, pressed right up against Cedar Pines Estates, a shiny HOA development carved out of old pasture land. They've been there maybe 20 years, but it's always felt like a different planet. Lots of beige paint, lots of rules, not much neighborly warmth. The first letter arrived on thick cardstock, stamped with 2 spindly pine trees, a real branding effort. It was from their president, Evelyn Harper, though I'd bet she answered to Karen in private. The letter dripped with talk of community harmony and aesthetic cohesion, phrases that make my skin crawl. It suggested my ranch, with its rustic charm and agricultural activities, no longer aligned with the area's upscale vibe. Oh, and would I consider letting the HOA buy me out for what they called fair market value? No number attached, just the implication they were doing me a favor. I laughed, tossed it in the junk pile, and figured that was that. A week later, Evelyn showed up in a gleaming white SUV, decked out in athleisure, so pricey I doubted she'd ever sweat in it. Her hair was shellacked into a helmet, her smile never reaching her eyes. She pitched their generous $200,000 offer for the entire ranch house, barns, water rights, everything. I nearly choked on my coffee. This land was worth at least 10 times that, maybe more, and she knew it. I kept my cool. Ms. Harper, I said, that's not just a low offer, it's creative. The ranch isn't for sale, and definitely not at that price. Her smile soured, and she started whining about how my operations were challenging for resident smells, noise, untidiness. I pointed out the fence was solid. The smells came from honest work and actual animals, not some backyard fire pit, and the only untidiness was the HOA's imagination. She let a threat hang in the air, muttering about protecting property values and standards. Here's the kicker, her rules didn't apply to me. My ranch wasn't part of their HOA and never would be. Still, I knew from my friend Rachel, who lived in Cedar Pines and regretted it, that Evelyn had been running the place like her personal fiefdom for years, enforcing rules on flower colors and patio furniture heights with an iron grip. But my ranch? Off limits. I could tell Evelyn wasn't going to quit. When she peeled out, spraying gravel, I got that old itch something was coming, and I'd better be ready. That night, I dug out Granddad's old records. He'd always said, "Know your land, son. Know its history. One day, that'll be worth more than gold." He wasn't wrong. The harassment started soon after anonymous county complaints about runoff, HOA letters about visual blight because wildflowers dared grow along my fence, even a surveyor who wandered onto my land on Evelyn's orders, sniffing around for a boundary dispute. I documented everything, channeling my forensic accountant instincts, photos, letter copies, the works. The offers kept coming. $250,000, then $300,000, each delivered with more drama and veiled threats. "Take it, or we'll explore other avenues," Evelyn said, standing at my gate like a queen on a battlefield. I asked if those avenues included a hostile takeover by Petunia regulation, which, for the record, didn't go over well. But the pressure was clearly meant to wear me down. What Evelyn didn't know was that patience is in my blood, and I'd been trained to follow paper trails like a bloodhound. Every night after chores, I pored over Granddad's ledgers. Then I found it, a 99-year ground lease, dated 25 years ago, with a developer called Evergreen Homes, for land matching Cedar Pine's footprint almost exactly. My heart raced. Granddad hadn't sold the land, had leased it, which meant the HOA, for all its swagger, didn't own their ground. They were tenants. The lease was crystal clear. They couldn't harass Oak Ridge Ranch, couldn't interfere, couldn't be a nuisance. It was almost too good to be true. I brought it to Clara Morgan, a semi-retired property attorney with the patience of a saint and the wit of a comedian. She read the lease and grinned. Your granddad was either a genius or the luckiest man in 3 counties. The best part? Clara advised me to stay quiet and let Evelyn dig her own hole. So I kept documenting herbicides sprayed on my roses for visibility, more calls to animal control building an ironclad case. Meanwhile, Evelyn escalated, delivering a final, irrevocable offer of $350,000, complete with threats to pursue all available legal remedies. The irony was delicious. They were threatening legal action against me for existing on my own land while violating the lease that let them live there. I started quietly talking to reasonable residents like Rachel, who was horrified to learn how Evelyn was spinning me as the villain. The 30-day deadline came and went. Evelyn called an emergency HOA meeting to rally her troops, talking big about compelling the sale for the community's good. Clara and I crashed the party, walking in just as Evelyn was mid-rant at the podium. She saw us and smirked, thinking I was there to cave. Instead, I let her finish, then stepped up. Actually, there's been a critical oversight in your assessment. Clara, every bit the courtroom shark, handed out copies of the lease. You could see the moment the truth hit. Evelyn's face went white as she scanned the document. Clara explained it plainly. The homes, the clubhouse, all of Cedar Pine sat on Bennett land, leased for 99 years with strict rules against harassing Oak Ridge Ranch. Breaches meant financial penalties or, worst case, early lease termination, eviction, reversion, the works. Panic swept the room. Residents looked at Evelyn like she'd led them into a trap. Some shouted, "Did you know? Why didn't you tell us?" Evelyn tried to play it off, but the truth was in black and white. That night, her reign ended not with a bang, but with a shuffle of papers in a room full of angry neighbors. Within a week, she'd resigned, her white SUV parked in her driveway with a for sale sign. The new HOA board came to Clara and me, all humility and apologies. We didn't end the lease, that was never the point. Instead, we negotiated new terms, a public apology, a hefty annual ground rent aligned with reality, protections for my ranch written into the lease, and a permanent advisory seat for me on the HOA board. The fence line became a symbol the HOA paid to replace my roses and let wildflowers bloom freely. Rachel got elected to the new board and said the neighborhood's mood shifted, less fear, more neighborly. People started talking, waving, instead of policing each other. Oak Ridge Ranch kept its heart. Granddad's legacy became not just a memory, but the foundation beneath an entire community, a community now paying handsomely to be part of the story. I learned never to underestimate the quiet ones or the power of knowing your history. Sometimes, the best revenge is living well and letting the facts, not the loudest voice, win. So, what's the wildest power trip you've seen from someone who thought a little authority made them king of the hill? Drop your stories in the comments. Hit like, and stick around for more tales where the underdog wins with grit and truth. Thanks for listening.